Okay, welcome again. I'm Julie Trone with the AEGE Committee in District 12, and I am pleased to see you all today because the connection between climate change and violence against women is noted worldwide. Our esteemed colleague, Zonta member of Pikes Peak Club, Liz Grothoff-Crotty, is going to present that particular topic to you today. So I hope you enjoy it. She has been presenting this topic. I don't know if it's just for the year or for a while now, but I'm
Yeah,
very excited. Yeah.
yeah.
So thank you.
And
And well,
yeah.
thank you, Liz.
I want to also say thank you to non-Zontians joining us today. I hope you enjoy our presentation and get interested in our Zonta Says Now movement and Zonta in general. And I want to give a special thanks to Julie Trone, who has led our District 12 committee for 5 years. She's done a beautiful job. We've done so much, and I'll talk about some of that in my presentation, but very, very honored to work with you these 5 years, Julie. Thank you so much. I'm going to turn off my video. Is it okay for me to start? All right. All right. And now I'm going to share my presentation. That's an appropriate picture for the day. There we go. Oh, all right. There we go. Right. So, and once again, welcome to all. I've been a member of Zonta Pikes Peak, which is in Colorado Springs in the area, since 1988. And I'm a founding member of the Zonta Says Now Committee for District 12, which includes Colorado, Montana, South Dakota, and Wyoming. And I'll be co-chair along with Kay Meyer of the Zonta Foothills Club of Boulder County for the next biennium. Kay is with us today. When we founded our committee 5 years ago, we chose the theme EDGE, AEGE, which we pronounce EDGE because we think we're very edgy. But does anybody on the committee, not on the committee, know what the initials stand for? Well, they stand for Action for Environment and Gender Equality. Our logo features the aspen leaf, which we chose as a symbol of our natural environment, of course, because the aspen tree is really an aspen community of trees, each one connected to the other. Aspen trees or stands sprout from a shared, massive, and deep root system that can survive for thousands of years, even as individual trunks die and are replaced. Beyond their own roots, aspens are connected to a broader microscopic network of fungi, etc., that allows them to transfer water, nutrients, and carbon with other trees. The extensive network allows for communal compassion, quote unquote, where the root system can distribute nutrients to damaged areas or nourish smaller, struggling trees in the colony. What a wonderful metaphor for Zonta in general. While the climate crisis caused by natural conditions and also by human activities was the main reason Zonta District 23 began the Zonta Says Now movement, we in District 12 wanted to expand our horizons and theme, and I hope this presentation will guide us all on a broader path towards understanding and solving the issues that we face today. This evening, my goal is to lead us uh, in a community much like the aspen trees. And I want to lead us into understanding the connection between the climate and the environment and how that relates to gender equality and more specifically today to violence against women. And to show how existing inequalities disproportionately increase vulnerability for women and girls as a result of climate change. I told my son today I was doing this topic, and he knows all about Zonta, but he was very surprised to find out that climate issues disproportionately affect women and girls. So welcome, everybody. And if you're not a member of Zonta, we especially welcome you to understand our advocacy work in over 60 countries around the planet, where we have established Zonta clubs, and also in the many other countries where we have established projects over the decades in order to build a better world for women and girls. So in 2012, Zonta International adopted our Zonta Says No campaign. Through Zonta Says No to Violence Against Women, we aim to raise awareness and increase actions to end gender-based violence around the world year-round, and especially during the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, which takes place each year from November 25th to December 10th. We aim to orange the world with our theme color. And here in Colorado Springs, members of Zonta Pikes Peak founded and continue to participate in the Human Trafficking Task Force of Southern Colorado, which is currently chaired by one of our members, Joanne O'Neill. So if we have Zonta Says No, why do we need Zonta Says Now? Zonta International adopted the Zonta Says Now program in 2022 to focus on gender equal climate action. The program was introduced at our Zonta International Convention and launched at CSW 67, that is the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women. As I mentioned, Zonta Says Now was launched by Zonta District 23, which is in Australia. And that was in response to the 2019 and 2020 Australian bushfires and the subsequent lack of a national climate response plan. Zontians in that district connected the dots between gender equality and climate action following those events. So I'm now going to read through these slides, if you don't mind. Climate action is a women's issue. Around the world, millions of people have already lost their homes and livelihoods due to extreme weather events caused by climate change. Most of them are women. When extreme heat, drought, fires, storms, floods, and sea level rise disrupt lives and livelihoods, women are less likely than men to recover. Why? Because systemic gender inequality has left women having fewer resources and choices than men. Action is needed from a gender equality perspective. Zonta Says Now is our call to action in favor of a fair and human rights-based approach to solve the crisis of climate change in the post-pandemic world and achieve greener, cleaner, and equal societies. So now I'd like to look at a 2-minute video. It's an older video, but I really like this video. It kind of puts into focus some of the motivators at the time. And here we go.
The heat impacts everyone equally, and heavy rainfall is a problem for everyone. The catastrophes created by climate change do not distinguish between genders. Yet women do suffer more from the consequences of the extreme heat, droughts, storms and floods, and according to studies, considerably more. In 1991 in Bangladesh, 91% of those killed by Cyclone Gorky were women. They were less likely to have learned how to swim. They also stayed at home more because they weren't allowed to go out alone. It's similar in Europe. During the 2003 heat waves, 75% of the deaths were women. The elderly, people who lived alone or on a low income were especially vulnerable. Women are overrepresented in these groups. The climate crisis is also increasing violence against women. On the island nation of Vanuatu, domestic violence increases significantly after tropical storms. In Chad, 91% of reported rapes occur near the emergency housing shelters women flee to because of the droughts. Elsewhere in Africa, crop failures result in more and more girls being traded off as child brides for cattle. And in Western Kenya, some traders demand sex from vulnerable or impoverished women in exchange for their fish, in what's known as the Jaboya system. But a Swedish study says women contribute less to climate change than men. Even though men spend only 2% more money than women, they create 16% more climate-damaging emissions. Mainly because they spend more money on heavy greenhouse gas emitters like gas and diesel. So those who are serious about fighting climate change must also fight gender inequality. That's why the UN has put the issue on the agenda of all its climate protection conferences.
So it's our goal as Zonta to increase awareness of this problem and to speak up for women and girls everywhere. One of the many data points not mentioned in this 2021 video is that violence against women significantly increased after Hurricane Katrina in 2005 due to factors like displacement, financial stress, and lack of resources. Studies found increased rates of physical and psychological victimization, with some reporting a nearly 100% increase in physical abuse. Women in FEMA housing also experienced elevated rates of abuse, highlighting the need for gender-sensitive disaster planning to address the public health and safety consequences for women and girls. And keeping us in mind also means providing items such as those products needed for menstruation, an example of an item frequently not considered at disaster planning meetings. So just a few of the issues are forced migration, increased fatalities, and increased violence against women. Just Google climate and violence against women. Study after study clarifies the numbers, and they are daunting. So, wow, let's take a little breather. I hope you are familiar with the 17 Sustainable Development Goals as defined by the United Nations, and if not, here they are. I hope you'll Google them to learn more about each of these goals and actions taking place around the world to work on them. I love these goals so much. I love them so much that I wish they were posted in every school, church, synagogue, boardroom, government building, and nonprofit in the world. I love them so much, I literally wear them on my body. This dress I picked up from Zvaha USA, which creates products for women, which are made of cotton and sustainable. And no, they're not paying me, but it's available right now at 50% off if you want to wear the Sustainable Development Goals on your very own body. I wore them to our District 12 district conference and had a lot of fun showing people the goals were on my body. So, as I mentioned, Zonta has a special relationship with the United Nations. Zonta holds general consultative status with the UN Economic and Social Council, working through the Commission on the Status of Women, and in conjunction with UN bodies to support the Sustainable Development Goals, especially Goal 5, Gender Equality. However, all these goals are interlinked and can be rearranged in a different order so that we can see how one doesn't solve one problem without broadening our vision and doing our research to see how things are interconnected. More on that later, but here's a little video to show the concept. Watch how these goals link to each other. And of course, there are many ways to find interconnectedness, but today we're focusing on women. And so, bringing this all together, I'm proud to tell you that Zonta has been interweaving the different sectors in our international projects in many countries, and quite often on the local level as well. If you watch the regularly released videos on local Zonta projects around the world, you will see that so many of them are linked to climate issues. And last fall for my club, Santa Pikes Peak, I created this worksheet. I'm glad to send to anybody who'd like it, so that our members could get together in small group conversations to get us thinking about these connections. And I also found this chart on the right, which shows how one company specializing in building linked the goals up. And there are other examples out there. In fact, I'd be hard pressed to think of any earthly activity, cause, or career where we should not be thinking about these connections. Which of these topics motivates you? Which relates to the climate and which relate to gender equality? Every 2 years, we launch several Zonta International projects, and the three that I'll talk about today were chosen for our 2024-2026 biennium. All three intersect with climate, whether it's climate with a big C or a small c, a concept I shall soon explain. First, the big C climate. This is the Climate Empower Project. Community empowerment and innovation for gender transformative climate action. We are partnering with the United Nations Population Fund. This is the logo down here, which works towards a world where every pregnancy is wanted, every childbirth is safe, and every young person's potential is fulfilled. The organization provides reproductive health care, supports maternal health and family planning, and works to end gender-based violence and harmful practices like child marriage and FGM. FGM is female genital mutilation, and I'm so proud that Zonta Pikes Peak many, many years ago advocated so that would become illegal in the state of Colorado. We targeted South Sudan, Mozambique, and Madagascar. In fact, we've been working in Madagascar for several years now, building schools which included restrooms for girls. What a concept, right? And initiating programs in girls' hygiene and safety education. This is in response to climate shocks and crises, as well as discriminatory social norms. Zonta International states women and girls' roles need to be leveraged as leaders in promoting climate change resilient community actions, as these are the individuals who experience the most challenging consequences of climate change. Their active involvement, therefore, in finding solutions is crucial. By integrating these perspectives, solutions are better tailored to protect all community members. Our aim is to empower women in climate resilience, one community at a time, and this is how we achieve that. So we foster gender transformative community empowerment. And we promote women-led and girl-led innovative solutions. And so that is our Climate Empower project. Our next international convention will take place this summer in Canada, in Vancouver, British Columbia. I'm hoping that the Climate Empower project will continue to be developed in other countries in order to build climate resilience for women and girls, one community at a time. However, should we choose another project, I already have seen that individual clubs around the world are doing much more work locally in countless community projects, too many to mention today. So I have no doubt that these efforts will continue to grow. Climate empowers broader vision, includes protecting the rights of millions of vulnerable countries, girls and countries in Africa and Asia, 12 countries already, and actually everywhere through Zonta and like-minded organizations. And these projects tie in with our ongoing project to end child marriage around the world, including in the USA. Since 2014, Zonta has committed $8.2 million to ending child marriage and is currently in stage 3 of this project. Roughly 2/3 of child marriages occur in areas with higher than average climate risks. In 2021, there was a lot of research on child marriage and a lot of research on climate change, but very little look at the links between the two. Why? Well, the links are not immediately obvious. The impact may be indirect. We work in silos, and a lot is framed technologically and scientifically, downplaying the impact on people's lives and livelihoods, and especially on women and girls. Pathways that drive child marriage in the context of climate change often combine various factors. Families are pushed deeper into poverty, perhaps with crop failures, and they resort to child marriage as a coping strategy, reducing family size and taking away one more mouth to feed. Displacement increases security concerns, such as fear of sexual violence, and child marriage is mistakenly seen as a way to mitigate risks and protect family honor. And this brings us to our next international project, LAHA, a virtual safe space for women and girls. And here's how it's written in Arabic. I'm a linguist, so I'm so pleased to tell you that LAHA means for her in Arabic. And it also means I'm on it or I've got this. Zonta International says 1 in 3 women experience violence in their lifetime, and 12 million girls are married before they reach the age of 18. Violence is exponentially made worse during humanitarian crises, such as climate-based disasters. Areas experience civil unrest and war, and impoverished populations. LAHA, the first ever digital web-based platform created by UNICEF with women and girls from crisis-affected regions, strives to increase knowledge on gender-based violence and sexual and reproductive health through quality and accurate information to women and girls, and to reduce isolation by building safe spaces of support for adolescent girls through peer-to-peer connection on a moderated user forum. And that means not AI. Now, remember that the AEGE Committee wants to expand beyond the climate crisis, so please stick with me. We all know that building tall buildings creates hotter cities and windier cities, right? So far, we've been talking about what I call climate with a capital letter C, whether caused by Mother Nature or by humans via increasing carbon dioxide through industrialization. Big C climate is on everyone's minds these days. But there's another climate, the climate we ourselves create in our cities, workspaces, politics, culture, neighborhoods, schools, and online. The small c climate is like small e environment, something we're all responsible for. So when you're thinking about climate, I encourage you to expand your thinking to pollution and contamination, safety in our cities, design, and the culture. Are women safe in these environments? Are women and girls safe in our cultural climate? If you haven't already done so, I urge you to read Carolyn Criado Perez's book, Invisible Women, which I presented on for this committee a couple of years ago. No one touts this as an environmental read, but it is. You'll see all the connections as you read story after story she provides of real-life examples from many countries in which women's needs are not taken into mind, from medical research to clearing snow from sidewalks. You will love this book, and please get a man to read it too. Here are a few scenarios in the book. They built houses without any kitchens. This has happened twice. In 2001 in India and in Sri Lanka 4 years later, where the rebuilding program didn't include women, and as a result, they built homes without kitchens. How did this happen? I'm sure you are shaking your heads. So these were homes being built after crises caused by tsunamis. So how did this happen? There's no international law requiring that women's voices be included in post-disaster planning. This despite the fact that the UN has been encouraging including women's voices since this resolution passed in the year 2000. But progress is slow and even seems to be going backwards, to quote from Carolyn Criado-Perez's book. Data is difficult to collect. When the local government says we don't want women, the international community compromises and says, okay. If we are reticent to include women's needs when things are going well, there's something about the context of disaster, of chaos, of social breakdown that makes old prejudices more justified. And we're always ready with an excuse. We need to focus on building the economy. Yes. We need to focus on saving lives. Yes. But the failure to include women in post-disaster efforts can end in farce, like the kitchens that are missing from those houses. The reasoning varies. Cultural insensitivities, including women, would delay the negotiations. Women can be included after an agreement has been reached, etc. But they all boil down to the same line that's been using to fob women off for centuries. I'm again quoting from her book. The climate crisis is not gender neutral. It exacerbates existing inequalities, leaving women and girls to experience unique threats to livelihoods, health, and safety. So yes, the climate crisis disproportionately affects women and girls. And I'm going to channel the spirit of our author here and add, virtually all human design disproportionately harms women and girls. They built communities without safe and adequate toilets for women. Even in our modern times in a country like the USA, this is an ongoing issue. And I have to believe that solving this issue will benefit men as well, especially when they're waiting for us to return from the restrooms in the concert hall. This cartoon looks exactly like the second floor restrooms at our local Pikes Peak Center for the Performing Arts during intermission at any given performance. Quoting from Invisible Women, Chapter 2, even if male and female toilets had an equal number of stalls, the issue wouldn't be resolved because women take up to 2.3 times as long as men to use the toilet. We need to include women in our data, don't we? Failure to provide adequate sanitation is not just a women's issue, it's a human issue. Have you heard of the urinary leash? The urinary leash keeps women at home. First, some background. In the Victorian period, the lack of public facilities for women was intentional as a way of controlling their movements and keeping them out of public spaces. There was a negative attitude towards building women's toilets as it was considered improper for women to use public facilities. This is why women simply would not come out of their homes for long periods. I saw this with my mother-in-law. She would travel across the country and she would hold it in rather than bother her family made up of men and boys to stop at a restroom. Public institutions, including educational buildings, workplaces, and recreational spaces, were designed around the needs of men. Women tried to cope with the lack of toilets in a variety of ways, including drinking less water, holding in urine for hours, and spending less time in public spaces. And that research is a combined research from the University of the West of England in Bristol and the Institute for Human-Centered Design in Boston in the USA. But we've solved all these problems by now, right? Again, from Invisible Women, a third of the world's population lacks adequate toilet provision at all. According to the UN, 1 in 3 women lack access to safe toilets, and WaterAid reports that girls and women collectively spend 97 billion hours finding a safe place to relieve themselves. 97 billion hours a year. More than half of Mumbai's 5 million women do not have an indoor toilet, and there are no free public toilets for women. Meanwhile, free urinals for men run into the thousands. A typical Mumbai slum might have 6 bathrooms for 8,000 women. And this is again quoting from the book, but defecating in the open isn't safe. There's a real danger of sexual assault from men who lurk near or on the routes to areas known to be used by women to relieve themselves. And I'll add, this is true also in refugee centers, FEMA centers, crisis centers around the world. Women are more in danger around these restrooms if they exist. And this isn't just a problem in poor countries. Human Rights Watch spoke to young girls working in tobacco fields in North America and found that they would refrain from relieving themselves at all during the day, aided by avoiding drinking liquids, which increase their risk of dehydration and heat illness. And of course, we all know that heat is increasing in North America, as it is everywhere for our farm workers. And I'm not done. There's more to the peeing issue. If you're a woman in combat gear, science gear, or any other unisex gear, or simply a woman on a hike or a camping trip, clothing design is an issue you might be thinking about right now. Solutions are out there. Are you ready to pee the change? But the book points out that there are other clothing issues as well, such as bulletproof vests for women in law enforcement. Sometimes vests designed for a woman's body aren't available, or if available, aren't approved. The book tells of one officer who was fired for purchasing one that fit her. And elsewhere, a woman police officer disclosed she had to have breast reduction surgery because of the health effects of wearing her body armor. Our cars aren't safe for us either. Crash test dummies are designed according to the male body. Our medicines aren't safe. Scientific studies fail to disaggregate for women whose bodies differ down to the cellular level. If you're interested, I have prepared a presentation on these topics and so much more as addressed in this book, Invisible Women, which I presented on a couple of years ago, and I'm happy to do it again. But for now, just please read the book and get a man to read it too, because from chapter 5, we need to add our voice to the voice of Mr. Reference Man. Who is Reference Man? He represents all of humanity, leaving women out in case studies and data collection and laws, in cultural understandings, in building design, in industrial regulations, ... Reference Man's superpower is being able to represent humanity as a whole. So whether the issue is big or small, we need to rethink our entire environment and our cultural climate with women in mind. And women need to be included in the numbers, big and small. Ultimately, pollution in our air and water, as well as so many other topics, from heart medicine research and seat belt design to industrial contamination and food deserts, do you name it? These affect women disproportionately. Think big picture. Think of the environment we live in and the cultural climate we create. Be the change. Be the change. So again, I'm so proud that our District 12 Zonta Says Now Committee for Gender Equal Climate Action started by broadening our focus to action for the environment and gender equality. That includes both big C and little c climate, big E and little e environment. And so I urge you to join the conversation and engage wherever you're at. Engage. On April 22nd, we celebrate Earth Day, naturally, and this year we mark the 56th anniversary of the global event with the theme, Our Power, Our Planet. When you think that, think of our power as Zontians, as women, our planet too. The 2026 campaign focuses on accelerating the transition to clean energy, promoting climate literacy, and empowering collective action for a sustainable future. I think those are all basically the mission of our committee. Aren't these all women's issues? The Commission on the Status of Women is the UN's largest annual gathering on gender equality. The previous session in 2025 set a record with over 13,000 participants, and our chairperson, Julie Trone, was there, as well as others from District 12 and, of course, other districts around the world. The 2026 session prioritized ensuring and strengthening access to justice for all women and girls, and reviewed progress on women's full participation in public life and the elimination of violence. On top of the busy 2 weeks of official events, there were over 200 official side events. And in addition to those official side events, the NGO, Non-Governmental Organizations Forum, held over 750 parallel events, and Zana International was there, adding our voice. So I invite you to join us again in the future and to follow us on Facebook. We do a Sunday evening presentation almost every month, often featuring a book discussion. Here are just some of the books and films we've recommended and presented on in the past few years. My favorite one, of course, is Invisible Women, although Braiding Sweetgrass comes in close. I'm currently suggesting this book for a future read. The story is local to District 12. In Soil, the Story of a Black Mother's Garden, poet and scholar Camille Dungy recounts the 7-year odyssey to diversify her garden in the predominantly white community of Fort Collins, Colorado. We'd love to get her as a guest speaker, and I thought this would be somewhat easy until I found out, wow, look at all she's involved in. I'm often somewhat oblivious to making connections myself, despite the theme of my presentation today. So I was thrilled to discover or rediscover that her work is included in 2 other books I've read, the 1619 Project and the book All We Can Save, which we featured with our committee. And this is her latest work, A Love Story. Ultimately, this presentation is about you finding your way, making your own connections, and making a difference in your corner of the planet. So this is another book we're planning to feature, and Kay suggested this one, Climate Wayfinding. Climate wayfinding is both a balm and a call to action, reminding us that healing the planet begins with tending to ourselves and each other. So what moves you, and how will you move the world? In a few seconds, I'll invite you to share your reactions to the presentation and share your ideas and some of the projects you're engaged in and would like to learn more about. Thank you for joining us this evening. I encourage you to act now. Find community projects already taking place. Gather facts and share your ideas in all your microclimates. And add your voice as a woman, as a man, as a Zontian, as a non-Zontian, working together in solidarity for gender equal climate action. Thank you again for listening. And I'll pause my presentation there. Julie, handing the keys back to you.
Thank you, Liz. I'm going to unmute my video. That was fantastic. I
Thank
love
you.
every bit of it. I got to add a heart shape. There you go. Wow. Thank you so much. You covered it all. I just love how you tied in what we've done all year and some of your favorite readings and how that resonates with the work we do as Zontians and non-Zontians alike. So thank you. That was beautifully presented. I really loved it. Why don't we open up for some talking? I'm actually going to stop the recording so that everyone feels comfortable with chatting. And here we go.